Hey, it's James, Father's Rights and Resources, hashtag how I got custody. I want to talk about another one of these crazy, perverted, sick, twisted, mentally ill judges slash lawyers out there. Look at the picture behind me. Not of that normal looking human being, single dad and his cute little baby. That's me on this side. But this is David Kontos, Kontos. I'll put a link in his website. He's an attorney in Kent, Washington. He's also a substitute judge, to put it bluntly in layman's terms, but he is a Pro Tem commissioner, which means Pro Tem is short for pro tempore, which is a substitute family law commissioner on the family law calendar in Kent, Washington. He gets to come in when a family law commissioner calls in sick, or when a bunch of them are on vacation, or they're going to a judicial seminar or something like that. So David Kontos, I think in the early 2000s, he was a pro tem commissioner. He got kicked off the rotation and is well rumored that he got caught having sex at the courthouse. Now, the reason why I know that's more likely true than not is that, now just think about this. He's a lawyer, just to be clear. He's a lawyer full-time practicing law at Kontos Law Firm, I think it's called. Then sometimes he goes down to the courthouse. Oh, there's a family law commissioner, a judicial officer. You know, we have family law commissioners in King County, and then there's judges. If you lose in front of a commissioner, you can appeal to a judge. It's called motion for revision. I've done it many times. And commissioners can't do trials, so they're like a mini judge or a wannabe judge. So David Kontos is one of these. David Kontos was messing around with somebody at the courthouse and got caught. He was kicked off the pro tem rotation. Then after, 5 or 10 years, a generation of folks go by, they forget about it. The judges reappoint him. Now, the judges at our courthouse are the ones who pick the commissioners. And then they have put people on the rotation to be substitute commissioners. We don't get to pick these commissioners and make rulings in our lives determining the fate of our children. That's why some of these commissioners are giving custody to moms with pedophile boyfriends or violent felons. I know cases where a dad was seeing his kid every other weekend. He went to court to get 50-50. The mom lied and said he's crazy and scary. And the mom lived with a violent felon, and there's gun shells, there's bullet shells all over their house. They went to gun ranges when he's banned. Her boyfriend is banned from, I actually did a video about this case, and I show you documentary evidence. He's banned from having a gun. And the judge said, well, that guy's history of domestic violence, of beating up women. You know, when you live with somebody who commits domestic violence or is violent, you're supposed to get your kids taken away under RCW 2609-191, subsection 2A and 2B. But judges like this dude, or commissioners like this dude, give custody to moms who live with felons or pedophiles or rapists. And then they say, oh, his history of beating up women, that was in the past. And his current girlfriend is letting him in the home, so he must be fine, even though that mom's mentally ill. So these guys do crazy stuff like that. But I first wanted to point out, he gets to have sex at the courthouse and gets kicked off and gets his job back. I also know as a lawyer, he trades sex for services. One of his girlfriends slash clients was Anita Amantia. He not only represented her, she's walking around the courthouse, help, help, I need help. And then this fat, slobby, nasty cokehead of a pervert, he's rumored to be a cokehead also. He can't get a woman on his own merit, just look at him. But he swooped her up and said, oh, you poor dear, what? And then traded sex for services. He hired her at his law firm. He got her a car, and then I think he moved her in, but he put her through school also. So This guy, as a lawyer, was sleeping with her and gave her free services. In that particular case, he was helping her get custody of the kid and pushing the dad out. That child was suicidal, went to the hospital several times, and the dad eventually got custody. But this subhuman piece of garbage chose sex over the welfare of a child. Now, how do I know some of those details? When I was at McKinley Irvin, there was a couple paralegals who left David Kontos' office and came to McKinley Irvin. They both told me that this guy would walk into the office and say, what am I doing today? He didn't study any cases. He didn't prepare for cases. And his legal secretary, one of the paralegals, went to him, and she told me this. We went to lunch one time and talked about it. She told me she wrote a brief for him that was filled with errors, and she was testing him. She wrote up a court document for a client and had a bunch of errors in it and handed it to David and said, what do you think about this? Then she went back later and said, okay, after you looked at it, he said, it's perfectly fine. She said, you're full of crap. There's 10 errors in there. You didn't even catch them. You don't even read this stuff, do you? And he just giggled and chuckled. So he will come into work, the day of work, and will say, what's going on today? What am I doing? Remind me of what I have going on today. He'd go out and snort cocaine, pay a prostitute, go and do whatever. Then he'd come. Now, those of you who are using David Kontos, he's coming to the office, not even know anything about your case, and he walks into court, and he just like a slick oil salesman or used car salesman, just wings it when he's in court. He didn't prep. He didn't follow RPC 1.1. If you got David Kontos and you've seen this, you should file a bar complaint against him and look up Rules of Professional Conduct 1.1, 1.2, and 1.4. He's supposed to communicate with you how to accomplish your goals, keep you in the loop of communication of what's going on with your case. He's supposed to tell you or diligently represent you competently. According to his own paralegals, he didn't even know what's going on in his own case. And because he's a pro tem commissioner, he knows how the system works. So when these people who have been attorneys for a long time, like my baby's mom's attorney, Don Farrell, I probably should do a whole video on him. Don Farrell used to lose cases on purpose for women clients. And then he would coerce them. Oh, you poor little thing, you're broke and you're struggling. Let me help you. You can come live with me at my home. And then you can pay off your bill by doing legal secretary work in my home office. He did that to 20 different women. Don Farrell. He retired with honors after 50 years. Supreme Court Justice, oh my God, what's her name? There's a Supreme Court justice. She was the Chief Justice for a while. She's supposedly a domestic violence advocate. I wrote her and told her about this because the bar wouldn't do anything. And she said, oh, just go to the bar. And she blew it off. So these are the type of sexually deviant perverts. Now, Don Farrell is even more hideously ugly and unattractive than David Kontos. So he can't get a woman. He's actually married. And so he probably secretly videotaped these women in his home office or in his home where they were living. And I talked to 5 different victims of Don Farrell. I'm talking about my baby's mom's attorney. And he's used racial slurs against other attorneys, which is kind of crazy that my baby's mom would stick with him because he's a misogynist and a racist, and she's a woman of color. So this subhuman piece of garbage trades sex for services. He slept with somebody at the courthouse, just like retired Judge Ponomarchuk did. Lenoid Ponomarchuk worked for a corrupt family law firm, became a commissioner, then became a judge. And he got on Good Morning America when he gave more time to a dad whose second wife murdered her own children. And he asked for more time, or the mother was trying to take away time, and Lenoid Ponomarchuk gave him more time. And that story was on Good Morning America or something like that. Now, his ruling got overturned, but those are the type of sexually deviant, psychotic, mentally ill perverts that we're dealing with. And here you go. David Kontos sleeps with women at the courthouse, gets kicked off because somebody snitched on him, and so they had to do it. But then everybody else, they rotate who's in charge or whatever. So, he goes to some cocaine party with some other judge, and they get him back in. So he's back on being a commissioner pro tem. And I've seen some of his rulings where he just made some stupid, incompetent stuff and probably didn't read the paperwork because he doesn't read the paperwork for his own clients that are paying him $300 or $400 an hour. So sleeps with women at the courthouse, trades sex for services. He'll cause his entire office to leave, and the morale is destroyed in his own office by the woman that he's sleeping with. He gives her a job and gives her all this charity and stuff and lets women manipulate him like the simp that he is. Then, as a lawyer, he won't even read the paperwork. He'll just go to court and wing it. So what makes you think as a commissioner pro tem, when he has 10 cases in front of him, hundreds and hundreds of pleadings of paperwork, that he actually read any of it? What commissioner pro tems will usually do is if there's a court order in place and somebody wants to change it, they won't disrupt anything because they don't want to, make any waves, rattle any cages. Commissioner pro tem John Curry is just like that. That subhuman piece of garbage is an evil demon himself down in Auburn, Washington. Him and his law firm represent Raj Baines, who molested his kids and smashed one of his daughter's heads in and gave the child brain damage, and he's restrained from that kid. But pro tem commissioner and family law attorney John Curry down in Auburn, his law firm, particularly him and Dan Williams, represent Raj Baines, Rajabains. And that guy beat the snot out of his kid and permanently damaged his kid's brains. And they're helping him harass the mother. So these guys will make rulings against you as a dad because you're calling the mother saying, when can I see my kid? When can I see my kid? And the mother goes, I'm afraid of him. Domestic violence, harassment. And this guy will give a restraining order against a dad like that who's just trying to see his kid. Meanwhile, they're helping women who abuse their kids, or they're helping male clients who are domestic violence perpetrators like Raj Baines. Raj Baines is represented by Curry and Williams down in Auburn, Washington. And Raj Baines is actually a family law attorney himself. It's a small club of a bunch of sick, twisted, sexually deviant perverts. And this guy gets appointed by the judges in court, and most of the judges in King County Superior Court are appointed by Jay Inslee. They didn't get voted in. They did a favor for Jay Inslee. They went to a cocktail party with him, a cocaine party, a wife swapping party with Jay Inslee, did him a political favor or kissed his butt enough to get appointed to be a judge. And then the judges appoint these people. So none of these people are voted in by we the people. They're detached from us. They don't think that they serve us, and they use their position of power to get chicks, to get women that they couldn't get otherwise. And then they'll destroy a child's life. He helped Anita Amantea maintain custody of the child when she neglected that child, and also had that child went into the ER a few times because she was suicidal. This subhuman piece of garbage fought and fought to keep control of his psychotic girlfriend/client of that child. And the reason why one of his paralegals reached out to me, because she knew that I had talked to the father in some father's rights group that we were a part of, and she overheard the name. She's like, I feel sorry for that guy, because this guy, for the sake of having, sex with his client, he was willing to do whatever for her, including destroy a young girl's life and mess with her head and cause her to be suicidal. While he's destroying your case, if you got David Kontos, and not even reading your paperwork. So I'd be filing a bar complaint against him. Like I said, I got off on a tangent. Read RPC 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, and read where he failed and demand him to give your money back, or you'll file a bar complaint and sue him for malpractice. I got a guy that I've been cool with for a while, friends with for a while. He sued an attorney that he wasted $1,500 on. He did a lawsuit by himself without an attorney, and he got $25,000 as a settlement offer because they were scared he was going to go to court and expose that attorney who wanted to run for judge and stuff like that. So you can do your own lawsuit against an attorney, and you can win it or get a settlement or an arbitration award. Dawn Farrell, my baby's mom's attorney. I don't have the case number on here, but and I'll do a video on Dawn Farrell. One of his female clients, kind of like what this guy was doing, Dawn Farrell, my baby's mom's attorney, he had a case with a woman, and he tanked her case. He lost on purpose. He made her go broke. She lost everything. She lost custody of the child. She had a lot going on. Had to pay attorney fees and stuff. He said, "Oh, you poor beautiful thing, you can come live with me." And I talked to this lady. Okay. I think the case was Waterman versus Waterman. But I got all the documents. I'll do a whole nother video on this guy. But while we're on, drug addict, sexually deviant, pervert, psychotic, mentally ill weirdos like this who get appointed by other judges at the courthouse who get appointed by Jay Inslee for sexual favors or drug dealing favors or just kissing his butt or doing political favors. While we're on the point of that, this guy, Don Farrell, again, he forced at least 20 different women to lose on purpose. He would go to court and then file something, and then he wouldn't even tell them about it, and then he wouldn't file the proper follow-up paperwork, and then he would lose, and he learned how to do this scheme for a decade or two. And then he would go tell them, I'm sorry, we lost, and this and that, but you can come live with me and play knight in shining armor and play hero and stuff. Don Farrell would also call, say misogynist stuff. He called an Asian attorney a lying C word one time, the N word for Asian folks. And I found out about that. And that attorney wouldn't even file a bar complaint. So when I found out about it, I filed a bar complaint. So the bar made a finding that this Don Farrell guy I'm talking about maybe I should post a picture of him. Maybe I'll edit this later and post a picture. Don Farrell, who looks like a crypt keeper, who used to call me fat, ugly, bald in court papers and in correspondence. I told him he looked like a white trash version of Herman Munster, and he didn't like me standing up to him, so he fought for me for 15 years. He controlled my baby's mom. She would give him his signature, or she would give Don Farrell her signature and just let him do whatever he wanted with the signature, and he would just file stuff while she lived in California abandoning our daughter. Don Farrell would be dragging me in court. Wouldn't just let me just leave me alone just to raise my daughter. So my baby's mom kind of used him as a weapon, and Don Farrell was attacking me. But I exposed Don Farrell for being a racist, a misogynist, and all this other stuff. So again, these type of sexually deviant perverts are the ones that are in charge of our court system, take over our court system. It's lawyers making rules for lawyers. And you go to court, you represent yourself, you tell the truth, and the lawyer lies, and the judge goes, I have to go with the lawyer because it's part of the good old boy network, just like the Jim Crow South. If you had a bunch of white people in there, white judge, white jury, white prosecutor, maybe white public defender, they're all in the Klan. They all go to meetings. They all know each other. And here comes a black defendant. They're like, screw him. We're going to railroad him in court. That's what these people do to pro ses or to good dads and sometimes good moms. Whoever's the good person, these demon-possessed psychos see the demons on the evil person and they rule in their favor. And then they walk away with, free sex with somebody because they trade their services, and they don't even work on cases anyway. So back to Don Farrell. Don Farrell lost a couple hearings on purpose for this lady. Her name's Sherry. He would go up to her, and it's public record. That's why I mentioned the name. He went up to her and said, you poor little beautiful thing. You could come live with me. And she's like, what are you talking? Get off of me. Get away from me. Screw you. You lost my case. Why would I come live with you? And she thought that she felt sexually harassed. And she actually wrote a statement in my case. And I had talked to her because I did some investigation, because I saw her lawsuit against him, and she sued him for malpractice and won all her money back. It was like $6,800 at arbitration. I'll show the actual court document. See, what I'm doing right now is what people should be doing all across the country. But your attorney, who might be a decent human being, knows that this stuff goes on and won't say anything because they're scared, because everybody's a little sissy little punk little coward who won't stand up to the truth, won't stand up for justice, and they just want to go and make their money and pop in and pop out. The average human being is a total brainless zombie sheep who is a follower, who just wants to blend in with the crowd. And, you know, scripture calls us sheep, and for good reason. Sheep are one of the dumbest animals, and they'll follow each other off a cliff in a crowd and won't pay attention to what's going on. They just follow and follow. That's why they use sheep when they're talking about, people who are lost, who believe in this, that, or whatever. But these attorneys are supposed to snitch on, if you read the rules of professional conduct, it's about 8.4 or something, an attorney has an obligation to snitch on another attorney when they see that the attorney is violating the rules of professional conduct, but they don't do it. And all these fathers' rights groups out here are filled with limp-wristed, feminine little sissy coward men who lost in court. A guy loses in court. He starts a chapter of the fathers' rights movement. He's a loser. He lost. He doesn't know anything about winning in court. And he gives all kinds of advice to people who are in his group. And everybody just sits around and twiddles their thumbs and never stands up to these guys, never does a video like what I'm doing. And when you embarrass somebody like this, or you stand outside their office and picket them and hand out flyers and tell everybody that they're a sexually deviant pervert, and they trade sex for services, or they destroy people's lives, and they're trafficking children, when I do this, then some judges and some commissioners, they start changing their rulings because the public knows what they're doing. When I hold up a case number and say this judge gave custody to a woman, a violent child abusing woman, there's one Judge Cahan in King County Court. I don't know if she's a judge anymore. She gave custody to a blind mom, and her 3-year-old son burned himself on the stove because she doesn't know where he is because she's blind. Now, they shouldn't discriminate against her and her rights. He should have a significant accommodating relationship with the son. But the dad, who can see just fine and had no accidents or incidents with the child, lost access to his kid, and they had like every other weekend at the most, I think. Maybe it was even worse. And the blind mom got custody after the child got hurt under her care. But I posted that. I go out and protest, and I cite case numbers that I come across, or in groups that I'm in, people share their stuff, and it's a public matter. So I go and show this stuff. And people don't like me because I'm out here exposing the sexually deviant perverts. You know, when a sex offender moves in your neighborhood, people put signs on the corner streets. They post a sign. They've made laws where you can post a sign that says sex offender lives here, and they don't care about humiliating that person. So why are we so afraid to humiliate sexually deviant perverts, mentally ill, demonic psychos who traffic our children? And when they traffic our children, they're usually giving custody to the mom because the dad makes more money, and they get more bonus money when they order child support. If they order $1,000 in child support, the federal government will give the state of Washington $1,000 under Bill Clinton's Title IV-D financial incentive to help make greater child support orders. So they want to make sure the person making the most money doesn't get custody. So when they order child support, these guys get bonus money. Now it goes to a slush fund for all of DSHS or all of Washington, and Washington state legislators, judges, DSHS send representatives to secret meetings that you guys don't know about, where they say, hey, we're the judges. We're the ones who got us this $400 million in child support slush fund money. So we should get a fourth of it, and all you 8 others can divide up the rest. Or we should get half of it, and you guys get divided up. And then it goes to pad their retirement. So they have a financial incentive to give custody to the mother most of the time just because of that. And then now that I've seen more and more and deal with more and more mothers, I'm seeing more and more mothers getting alienated because I guess these guys are trying to say, oh, we want to make it look like, so we got to give a token dad custody. And usually that's a dad who's abusing the system against the mother. They don't believe she's a victim of domestic violence. So these guys, it's a twilight zone when you walk into family court. And I had professors at Central Washington University Law and Justice Department saying the court system is corrupt. We have documentaries saying the court system is corrupt in criminal court and civil court. And if you look at the documentary Divorce Corp, C-O-R-P, which is a play on words, Divorce Court, Divorce Corp, is the best documentary that's been done. They show how they're sexually, they have a guardian ad litem in there who is a cocaine, leather bondage, gay, sex party, orgy, promoter, or what do you call it? Yeah, promoter of these parties. And he's a guardian ad litem. And he's helping decide. We had a judge in Pierce County who, once he became judge, he was a guardian ad litem. Once he became judge, they prosecuted him because they found out he was soliciting underage male prostitutes by the courthouse, and he was threatening to kill them if they snitched on him. Michael Hecht. Just Google Judge Michael Hecht, H-E-C-T, Tacoma, Washington. These, and Judge Gary Little in Seattle in the late 80s. This has been going on for decades. Judge Gary Little was molesting boys that were in his own juvenile court in the Seattle PI. And all these judges and people knew about it, and they were covering it up in King County Superior Court for years. And nobody snitched on it. Judge Gary Little, just Google, Seattle Judge Gary Little shoots himself in chambers after the Seattle PI was going to expose him for being a child rapist and molester. I think maybe what he did was he'd assign probation for these juvenile kids, and they would do stuff like mow his lawn and come out to his mansion where he'd rape them. These are the sexually deviant perverts. And the #1 parenting evaluator in King County, Snohomish County for a decade, psychologist Stuart Greenberg, was married to Judge Joan Dubuque in King County. He secretly videotaped women and children in his office bathroom, got arrested for voyeurism, and then he killed himself afterward and left a suicide note saying, I've ruined many lives. Joan Dubuque is dead now. But it's all this circle of demonic, evil, sexually deviant perverts. It's like Sodom and Gomorrah up in there. And then they talk crazy to you because you're saying, this is crazy. I can't have an equal access to my own kids. These are the people who are creating fatherless families. But I just wanted to highlight David Kontos right now because he's up there as a pro tem commissioner, and the dude doesn't read paperwork, and he trades sex for services, and he's having sex at the courthouse. And they're cool with that. Just to let you know, these are the people that are making decisions and stuff. We should be anytime you see somebody running against a judge, you should vote the incumbent out. Get them up out of there. We had Judge Catherine Nelson in Pierce County in Tacoma, and there's one other judge, I forget her name. In about 2012, a couple lawyers ran against them, and they got destroyed because fathers' rights groups in the area didn't reach out to the community and let them know what psychotic, evil man-haters there were. Big, fat tub of goo hater, man-hater Catherine Nelson. Catherine Nelson oversaw the case in which this guy ended up murdering and blowing up his kids and himself. And it looked like the grandparents might have been molesting the kids because they abused his ex-wife. And Judge Catherine Nelson just let that whole case be a crap show. If you Google father blows up kids, Graham Washington, like graham cracker, Graham Washington, you could see what, that horrific case where, the wife is missing. They think the dad did it. The Pierce County Sheriff is trying to, they even admitted, we're trying to break him mentally and get him to confess that he did it. And he had a diary. Nobody, and this is a public case, and nobody even mentions this. They think that he is a murderer and did that. Now, there's obviously no excuse for blowing up yourself and blowing up your kids. But he kept pleading with Judge Nelson to remove the kids from the grandparents' custody. He said, use my sister, use a third party, just get them out of that house. And he had a diary from his wife saying her parents abused her, and that Judge Nelson wouldn't allow the diary in there. So everything that helped the grandparents, who may have been in a child molesting cult, was totally ignored by Judge Catherine Nelson. And so when it was time to run against these judges, they had the police department and the fire department and all these other people that they wined and dined with. And like I said, probably went to some wife swapping orgies or cocaine parties. All these people made sure that they stayed in there, even though they get kids killed. They place kids with the... I know a case where Judge Catherine Nelson gave custody to the mom. She moved on the other side of the country. It was exposed that that attorney was not even showing the paperwork to her client. Gina Otter, A-U-T-E-R, of Tacoma, Washington, G-I-N-A. She was forging the mother's signature and wasn't even showing her the paperwork. And then as soon as she was exposed, she quit the case. The mother was talking in her paperwork, I'm so paranoid of the father, I keep a gun under my pillow and all this other stuff. And she's on the other side of the country. And Judge Catherine Nelson prevented the father from having any access to the kids. He had 2 kids, and destroyed the father-child relationship and let a obviously mentally ill psychotic weirdo have control and custody. These are the judges. These are the pro tem commissioners. They're sexually deviant, evil perverts that are in charge of our kids' lives. They should all be in prison. You know, my own judge, Judge Jim Rogers, I got him reversed to the Court of Appeals showing what an incompetent idiot he is. He loves Don Farrell. Don Farrell abuses women and is a racist. Jim Rogers, I actually know of a case where a good mom got her kid taken away, and then he gave it to a child. He gave the child to a child abusing father. That lady went to the Court of Appeals and got Judge Rogers reversed also. And he was the chief presiding judge in King County. And I'm the bad guy when I expose all these sexually deviant perverts, because all the demons that they have on them come converging together and pounce on me or talk bad about me. When I talk about John Curry, who flirts with women at the courthouse, who represents a sexual deviant pervert, who also smashed his daughter's brains in. I have a video on my YouTube channel where I'm outside Curry Williams protesting, and John Curry starts talking smack to me, and then his whole office comes out and starts talking smack to me and say, how do you know about this case and all this other stuff? They don't say, oh my God, we're representing a sexually deviant pervert who smashed a kid's brains in. They attack me for exposing them. But if everybody started doing this stuff, we would thoroughly embarrass these people, and they wouldn't want the job, or they would be exposed, or they would be voted out. But everybody just sits around on their hands like a bunch of sad sack little fruity feminine sissy cowards that don't want to stand up to anything in life and just say, yeah, good going, James, I appreciate you. Why don't you guys do this in your own city? Why aren't you doing that after your case is over and it doesn't even matter what you say about a judge? Why aren't you exercising your free speech right to show to redress grievances against your government? Because we're a bunch of sissy, feminine, little beta male, little fruity cowards. And we like sexually deviant, pervert, cocaine addicts like this guy being temporary judges or family law commissioners. And the judges who are appointed by our Governor Jay Inslee for some reason, love this guy because he goes to the same cocaine parties as them. And there's some cases where that's literally true. I'm not just exaggerating for the sake of histrionics or hyperbole. I got documented evidence showing that these people are sexually deviant perverts, and they can't get a woman on their own, so they use their position of power to get all this stuff, and they become megalomaniacs, and then they won't read the court paperwork like this guy does, and they just want to make a whole bunch of money. They want money and sex and drugs and alcohol, and that's how they live their life. You know, like I said again, remember, the number one parenting evaluator, who's a psychologist who's supposed to specialize in psychology, Stuart Greenberg, was secretly videotaping women and children in his office bathroom. And then when some lady down the hall said, hey, our bathroom isn't working, can I use yours? And so it was somebody outside his office that went and saw a camera that was hidden somewhere. I don't know where it was. She found it, called the police. Police raided the place. He had videotape of himself enjoying the videos of women and children. I have a friend who was sexually harassed by him. I have a friend, her life with one of her kids was destroyed. Stuart Greenberg wrote a report that she shouldn't see a kid. Stuart Greenberg asked this woman about her sexual history during their interviews while they're sitting on the couch. And she told me she felt harassed, she felt humiliated, but he had control of his access to the child, so he couldn't say it. So these people are in positions of power, and they will extract, manipulate, use you like a lab rat. And Stuart Greenberg was married to a judge, Joan Dubuque, and she used to be a family law commissioner, and so he would be in front of her court recommending this and recommending that, and they end up getting married. It's a cesspool of vermin and sexually deviant perverts, racists, misogynists, misandrists, and basically child abusers. And everybody should be exposing them, particularly guys like this, David Kontos.